series of video training in the VMware series, the Vmware Fusion. If you happen to have Windows or OS running on your system, you can use the VMware Workstation. You can download that from the VMware website to try out VMware Workstation. I'm going to build this video series on a Mac, which is using VMware Fusion. So as we get started, I'm going to show you how to install Windows 10. So you click plus, which adds a new VM, new, and we just want to click over here, install from my disk image, continue. I've already installed an image, so I will clear. We have a super drive. I don't have DVDs. I don't know many people how to carry disks anymore. I use ISOs, which are basically images of disks. So I'm going to click here, go to my portable drive. I'm going to use the ISO I have, and now I have the ISO image of Windows 10, 64-bit. So I will click continue. Comes up with an easy install. I don't want to use the easy install, so I will uncheck, continue, and here's the base image of VM. So virtual machine summary, it's going to be Windows 10 64-bit. New hard drive is 60 GB virtual hard disk, 2 GB of memory, and I share my network with my Mac, so I can use, so I'm using Wi-Fi on my Mac. I can utilize that Wi-Fi as a physical NIC, a network adapter for the Windows operating system in a virtual machine. And it gives us a CD, USB controller, print, sound card, etc. So you can customize this as well by naming it. So we will call this Windows 10 install. And where I want to install it, I want to put it on my portable drive. And if I can, I prefer, yes, right there is fine. So, and I don't really want to share with anybody else. You can if you want, but I'd prefer not to. Save. So now it's going to save onto my red drive, which is right here, right there, Windows 10 install. So once you open up the VM, it now comes up with the hardware, with virtual hardware. Now remember, virtualization is a virtual version of a physical computer. So instead of going out and buying a new computer to put Windows 10 on to test it, and then you have that extra hardware laying around plugged into the wall, it's charging, it's using Hydro, it's extra monitors, extra keyboards, you just want to test something. So rather than just buying new machines all the time, you can use virtual machines. So you want to test out Windows 10, you want to see what it's like. Maybe you might want to flip off to the Mac hardware back to Windows. It's up to you. This may be something you use, or you may work in IT or something, some other industry that requires you to learn Windows 10 or to peek and see what it's about. Or you might even have a piece of software that's given to you that isn't Mac compatible, so you have to run it in Windows 10 or Windows 8 or Windows 7, etc. So this pop-up here is the window telling you the hardware which is in this virtual machine. So the hardware here says how big the VM is at the moment. Right now what happens is a VM is created using thin disk. What that means is we told it, right here, go to the wrench, we told it had a 60 GB hard drive, right here. It has a 60 GB hard drive, but at the moment it takes no space, it has nothing on it, so it's zero space. So what happens with a VM is it grows as you use it. If you decide later on you want to make the disk bigger, you could then bring this and drag it along and make the disk bigger. And in Windows you could then expand it. I will show you that shortly. And this here is what's called a VMDK, the virtual machine disk. So this virtual machine, Windows 10 install, this is the disk file. So without that being changed, let's leave that alone. Again, click on the wrench to find out the hardware. We could share this, we can add shares to connect back into the Mac to get other files if we need to. We can also go into applications. We can use it so with this Windows 10 VM sitting in the background, we can open up Windows applications right on the Mac almost seamlessly. It will load up the Mac and the Windows VM in the background and run an application in a Windows environment for you. So again, allowing you to use Windows-based applications on a Mac, and vice versa. You can also put a Mac VM in this as well. I've also seen it on the Windows platform, people making Mac VMs. A little more difficult, but I have seen it done, and I've done it myself once or twice as well. We can go in and add more memory. So if we want to add more CPUs to this VM, we want to add more memory, we can. We just have to change that. Now this VM is turning on, so we'll get rid of there's the hardware, right? We will go back. So we will go through all these settings. So network adapter, sound card, USB. You can add, if you plug a USB key into your into your Mac, you could then match it and tell it to connect to the Windows VM instead. So without this, let's go back through here. The ISO is booted, so it's technically booting up the computer on the boot disk, which is the Windows 10 installer disk. Now that's the ISO file. The ISO file is an image of a disk. It's just a flat file version of that disk. Rather than having a physical disk, you can have multiple ISOs on a hard drive or on a USB key. So the first setup window, we have language, time. We've seen this before. So you can change it if you want. I generally leave it the United States, leave it all US keyboard. I find in Canada, when you go Canadian keyboard, it gives you the French Canadian keyboard. Sometimes you get those accents to different keys on the keyboards. So I generally leave this at this setting and click next. For the most part, Windows install is just next, go. It's not in depth. There is some steps you may want to go through to customize your Windows, but you can always do that after the install. So during this setup starting, you see the little hourglass. You will see it's starting to install, and it comes up to license term. And you need to agree to the license term. Of course, you need a product key. I'm going to use this for less than 120 days, so I'm not going to put a key in, because by the time my trial runs out of this, I'm just showing it basically for this video, and then after that it's going to be trashed. I typically run things Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows Server less than 10 days just to try something out and say, okay, this is what I need to learn and this is what I do, and I get rid of it afterward. That's why it's called a lab. So without this being here, this license term, this just means that we're agreeing to the terms that we should purchase it if we do keep it, and we are following the license agreements. And then you have upgrade or custom. Well, in this case, there's nothing on this computer, even though it's virtual. We want to go to custom, install Windows only. Now this is where it shows the disk. The only disk in this virtual machine is 60 gigabyte disk. There's nothing there. So we can click new, and it will create a partition. Because you can break up this partitions. Let's say if we wanted to have half of the disk because we only wanted to use half. We just say apply, and it says it's going to create an additional partition. Generally it's a 100 megabyte partition. In this case it's less than 500 megabyte. A 500 megabyte system reserve. So this is a reserved hidden partition that Windows uses. And as you see, it created a 28 gig partition, approximately 30 gigs, and the other is left over. Now I don't really want to break up the drive in multiple disks, because you can if you want. So if you want to have Windows on one drive and all your data on another, you could do that. For this example, I don't really want to do that, so I'm going to delete, and that just deletes the disk right down to nothing. I'm just going to choose the default of next, which will automatically create my partitions I prefer, or that Windows needs to get the system going. And now it will copy all the files from the USB key or the ISO file and copy them to a temporary space, and then what it will do is go to install the files into the folder structure. So at this point it's going into the C drive and it's making folders called Windows, Program Files x86, just system folders of Windows. And this is where the operating system lives. Now if you're not sure what operating system is required to do anything on a computer. You need an operating system to tell the system how to operate, how to do certain things. You want to move your mouse, it needs to know how to move it. You want to click on a start button, or if it's a different operating system, you need to click on a menu button somewhere. So the operating system is required for you to do any operations on a system. Years ago, if you are a veteran over the years of using computers, there was DOS, then there became Windows. DOS was more of a keyboard-centric operating system. You just use your fingers on the keyboard, no mouse. And there was no internet back then. and then we moved up to Windows, where we moved to mouse, and then we went into the Mac worlds, and we went to the Linux worlds. Those VMs will be coming shortly in the next series of videos, and we will go further into the operating system builds, and I will eventually head into the server operating systems, which show you how to use functions like IIS, which is the web server, Microsoft's web server version. And then I will get further into domain controllers, DNS servers, and the likes of those roles that you can run on servers. So while this is installing, let's go up through the top menu. So in the top menu here, we have other functions we can use. We can turn the sound on and off. We can go here to USB. So if I have a USB key plugged in, I can connect that USB key to the VM, not the Mac. So then the VM has the key as if it's plugged into its physical computer. Again, this is a virtual machine. It really, if I minimize it down here, I'm back to the Mac. If I want to bring it back up, I just click on this again, and there it is again. So I have the choice of doing what I prefer to do with my system. Again, I can run my home OS, which is the default operating system on my computer. In this case, it's a Mac, so the Mac OS is what I would use as my default OS on the system. So while this is building Windows 10, it will install some files. We'll go back to here. We can create other VMs as well. So while that's building, we could suspend it. So let's say if we decide my battery's getting low, or I got somewhere else to go, you could suspend or pause the VM install and then come back to it later and turn it on again. A previous video I made talked about how the VMware Fusion works and how you can create a VM and so forth. This is just more to go into how Windows 10 is installed. So bring this back up. It's 22%. So this video will go on for a while. I will do some editing to shorten up the time, to speed up the video a little bit, as we're only at 32% at the moment, and I will just pause here for a second while I wait for it. Well, now the installer is at 100%, and carry on to installing features. Installing updates. One thing you notice with Windows 10 Home, the home version of it does automatic updating with Windows from Windows Update site, because they want to make sure all home computers do get their updates to make sure the operating system stays current with the latest patches to protect your home computers. This version of Windows I'm installing is Pro, which is more for the workplace, for offices and where they have servers to connect to, and as they call them, domains, which I'll go into in future videos if you keep up with my video series. I'm hoping to train everybody on the most current information as possible within Windows. So there's the first boot after the install. It will now boot up. It's neat how Microsoft changed this the circles, dots running around there from the old days into now starting Windows. And just going to a plain Jane screen. The less that happens, the more you focus on the I/O, the operatings, input-output operations happening with your system, loading off the disks. Most computers nowadays have SSDs, which are faster. This VM I'm saving on a portable hard drive, so it'll be a little slower just to show the VM usage, but for lab purposes this is perfect for my usage. If this was a physical computer and you were looking to reinstall Windows on your machine because maybe you just bought the Windows 10, or you're looking to reimage because maybe you had a virus or something, it's the exact same process. You would put the boot CD in your computer drive, boot up, it would boot into it, or you'd have a bootable USB key. You can Google how to set one of them up. I think one of my near future videos I may set up show you how to create a Windows 10 bootable CD from an ISO image that you might download from Microsoft. But as we go through this, the screen is getting ready, and this will give us the very first time we log in shortly. Now it looks like what Microsoft's doing with Windows 10 is they're shifting. They went from 8.1 right to 10. They're shifting almost the idea Apple is doing. They went to OS X. OS X is OS 10. And they've been carrying versions 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 all the way up. It looks like Microsoft might be following that type of idea now with their operating system. Instead of coming out Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 12, Windows 13, they're going to keep updating it for you. This is why the home version, as I mentioned earlier, the Windows updates will carry on itself. And if you don't have a virus scanner or a malware scanner, it comes with the built-in one from Windows. It's not a bad one. I think nowadays more malware than viruses are out there, so you need to be cognizant of what you click on with email. If you use webmail, be careful what you click on, because it can attach to your browser and create more virus problems or malware problems to write data to your drive and lock you out. But Windows is getting better and better with its security, so let's hope for the future that it gets stronger and stronger and protects your data a little better. But again, it's always on the onus of the user of Windows. Once I get this Windows installed, we will carry into a few configuration items just to get going, and then from that point I will end the video and we'll go on to another series of other things. It does take a few minutes. It's getting ready because in the background it's building default profiles. When you log on for the first time, it creates a user ID of yourself, and it creates a folder structure of your user ID, because Windows can use multiple users. So if you decide to log on, you can create another user for another user, for another person, and that person would have its own profile and desktop colors and mouse settings and everything. In some cases you can even hide applications from each other. So in just a couple seconds here we should see a graphical screen come up with a login. And as I said, this is the exact same method you would use for a physical machine. I'm just using a virtual machine to get the video captured to show you this, rather than having a video camera pointing to a physical machine. In my line of work, it's great to have virtual machines because I can test things, confirm compatibility, confirm anything I need to confirm with that operating system that I may not have. In some cases I'll get a trial version just to test it and then toss it away after I'm done. So you notice when you move your mouse, when you're locked into VM, you can't do anything. What you need to do is in VMware Fusion you would do Control up in the top left right corner, you say to release the mouse, press Control and a little command. So Control Command, which will release my mouse. In Windows you do Control Alt. Same thing when it says press Control Alt Delete to log in. In Windows you would use VMware Workstation and do Control Alt Insert. On the Mac, because there's no Control Alt key, insert key, what we would do is just go up here to virtual machine and you send Control Alt Delete. And the other settings here, there's a snapshot setting. Snapshots are good for when once it's built you want to keep it in that pristine setting, so if you make a mistake with Windows you can go back. So you can create a snapshot and then go back. I don't recommend keeping snapshots for too long. Usually just for a day, or after the change is made and you're happy with it, go back and remove the snapshot. You'll see restore snapshot, or it'll give you a list of snapshots you can remove. So let's go back into here. So now the first setting comes up and it says to set up Express, or if you want to do custom, let's go custom. It's always good to go into your operating system using custom settings. So personalization, personalized typing, spelling. Now I will go with the defaults here. I don't recommend leaving them all on. It's up to you though. I will leave them on temporarily. We'll go through them here. Personalization for speech, typing, ink, input, sending contacts, and I don't really want to send any data to Microsoft, so we could leave them on and just say next, 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 but I recommend that we turn these off. We don't want information going out to Microsoft. Now really what they're doing is they're collecting information such as you go to a website and you buy a lawnmower. Well, now they know what type of lawnmower you want to buy, so now that data will gear toward, oh, okay, well maybe another product from that company. So this is how they capture your data. They're not using it to say, oh, you owe money or whatever like that. They're using it for more advertising purposes. And Microsoft has taken that standpoint in their operating system now to collect data to give you these things. This is why they gave away Windows 10 for all the upgraders from Windows 7 and Windows 8, sorry. So next one is send typing, inking data to Microsoft to improve recognition. I don't want to do that either. Let apps use advertising ID for experiencing. I don't want to do that. And location ID. Well, this is something that you could leave on because when you go to Google, it'll say, hey, you're from where you are. Well, I don't really need my desktop doing that because I'm on a desktop. If I was on my phone, yeah, I want to know where I am so I can find the local restaurants and things. But in my desktop, I don't need to do that. So I'm going to say off. And then we go next. And there's some more. Use smart screen online services to help protect against malicious. You can leave this on if you don't have any other protection. So for now, I will leave this on. Use page protection to improve reading, overall experience. Browsing data will be sent to Microsoft. I don't like the fact that data is sent to Microsoft, so I will say off for this. Next one is connectivity and error reporting. Automatically suggest hotspots, and so if we're using a Wi-Fi device, it's going to automatically suggest hey, there's a network, connect to it. I don't really want to do that. I prefer to check my own Wi-Fi. I know where I am when I am there. If you choose to leave it on, you can. Automatically connected networks shared by your contacts. I don't like this because of what if there's a malicious person sitting nearby trying to get you to connect to their Wi-Fi so they can attack your computer. That is a possibility. I prefer not to take networks shared by my contacts, so I will say off. Scroll down. Send error diagnostic to information to Microsoft. I don't want to send again. I don't want to send anything to Microsoft. It may be okay for their operating system. I just prefer not to. So next, and it's going to restart and actually take us into the operating system now that we've answered some base questions. So reboots. The good thing about VMs using virtual machines is they do turn off and reboot pretty quickly. They're not like physical computers where they have to turn off, you hear fans starting, beeping. They just start up pretty quickly. Again, it's all based on the drive. This here's my portable drive here, and I store all my VMs on the portable drive so it doesn't fill up my local drive. So now it's starting up again. So far I think we're at 3 reboots. And you should always reserve at least an hour to set it up. My fastest time setting up Windows on my last desktop PC was about 11 minutes, and that was pretty quick. That was back in the Windows 7 and 8.1 days. Windows 10 I haven't tried on a physical machine because I haven't had an extra physical machine in a while. I've been spoiled with virtual machines, but it's a good practice to get into, to learn how to use the operating systems. If you're on a system you're not sure what your next operating system might be, it's a great tester to use. So now we're at the just a moment screen, and and this should bring up our new screen, the login screen. And here you go. And this asks about how we will connect. Now, because I'm using Pro, it wants to know whether I'm joining an Active Directory domain, which is a work-based network, or will I join Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud-based activity. So at this point here, I'm going to join a local, and it says when setup is finished, you can join the domain. So next. Now if you're using a home version of Windows, it would have came up to this screen here first without the domain. So that's the slight difference between the type of version of Windows we're using here. So my test, I'm going to use this password. I will use and now I used password on this VM, and it won't let you put the password into this. So easy one. So we know it's the easy one, so that's just my hint to tell me what the password is. Now you wouldn't want to use a simple password on your system normally, especially if you have a laptop, you open it up and it's wide open. You should put a password on your system and remember it, and it just prevents people from rooting around your system when you're not near it. So now Windows is doing some background setup. Remember I said earlier about the profile. It's carrying on my profile now with my name. So it's creating an account on the local machine. So this is my Windows computer. And again, we're at the just a moment screen and watching the circle. And again, depending on the speed of your drive you're using, the speed of your system, this can go fast, slow. And there you go, my profile is being created. It gives me the person little emoji, I guess that would be. Looks almost like an 8. And it's creating my profile right now and welcoming me to the system. I always find these screens funny. We're setting up Windows for the very first time, and we're setting things up for you. This is the very first time logging into Windows, so it needs to set up your colors, your desktop, your base apps, and now it's giving me the base apps in Windows. It's from a profile called a default profile. So I'll show you all this information once we get logged on. So as you can see so far, setting up Windows is a very simple task. You can follow the next and install, and it will put it on the system for you. If you're a little more advanced at it, you can do the custom install and make your disk different sizes, and some people like to partition their disks different sizes so they know where all their data is. Nowadays the large disk is common for most people, everything everywhere. I know flipping over to the Mac just recently, I noticed that's the way it's listed in the Mac. You just put everything everywhere and it finds it using search. Windows 10 also has a nice search. It has a talking system into it, just like the Apple Siri system, and it has a system called Cortana. You'll also notice the browser. The previous Windows always had Internet Explorer, and now it's called Microsoft Edge. So it's just slightly different. It will have the same look and feel, but it is different. The back end of it, the program side of things, it is a much better system to use. Windows 10 is promising faster and more secure as well. So we will see once we get this up and running. And here we go. So if you're familiar with previous versions of Windows, there was always a button that says Start. So right now we've joined a network. I've connected to a network. So now I'm on a network, I'm there. Here is the start button. It's just a Windows button now. If you've heard of Windows 8.1, Windows 8, when Windows 7 came around, they had start. It looked like just a Windows button, and then Windows 8 it went away, and then it came back, and Windows 10 it's back, and this is the Cortana. Sorry. If I had the microphone hooked up to it, I could tell Windows, Google, find me a map, whichever you need me to do. So at this point here, I'm just going to click out of there, and we're going to go to Start. And the Start menu gives you just the Start menu we're used to, plus the tiles from Windows 8.1 and 8. So there's plenty of things. This is the defaults it comes with: the built-in Mail, the calendar, Microsoft Edge, Photos, Cortana, the weather, so forth. What I usually do is I like to go to Control Panel. So you could leave this window up and just start typing Control. So just go to Control Panel, and I usually go to Category, Small Icons, just because I like to see where I'm going in the system. So we want to go to System icon, System setting here, and we see that we're running Windows 10 Enterprise. This is based on, like I said, it's for hooking up to systems at work, for instance. So this is what we want to just see. This is the version of Windows is not activated yet. I believe it's 120 days to activate this before it shuts off on me. I don't plan on activating because it's just a test. But if I had to activate, I would activate and put a key in, and then we would have a licensed system. But yeah, it's this one is a little more money, but the home system, I believe, is around $129 Canadian to buy. It's an operating system, you have no choice really. So you can use variances like Ubuntu or other Linux systems, but let's talk about Windows. So we have all our built-in system information here. So let's go to the basics. So first thing you want to do when you get your Windows system up and running, we want to run Microsoft Edge. And we can search for Google, and the default engine it uses is Bing, which is Microsoft's search engine. Google is Google's search engine. So let's go back and let's type Bing. So it's, to me, tomato tomato, it's a search engine. Some like Google better, some like Bing better. It's a matter of preference really. And it has Outlook.com, which is the new version of Hotmail, Microsoft Office Online. So if you subscribe to their Office 365, you can open up Office right here. If you're used to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. There's so many services available. Microsoft wants you to go toward the cloud, and that means not on your computer. That's what the cloud means. Everything is stored on the cloud. So they have a storage space, basically your disk. All your data gets stuck on a disk that's at their offices all across the world, and it's backed up in many different locations, and you never lose data. So when you hear this term, the cloud, your stuff is all up on the internet. So this way, if you pick up your phone, you can log into that data you have just put up there from your tablet or your desktop, or even this VM if you wanted to. So that's where the cloud comes in handy. And also because if this VM fails, or your physical hardware, if it gets destroyed, water damage, anything happens where you lose all your information, you no longer lose your data using a cloud-based service. Now there's pros and cons to it as well. I recommend you do your homework, look up the cloud, Google it. You'll hear Microsoft Cloud Storage, and because it's Bing, it might do a preference toward Microsoft here as the top search. It's hard to say, but yes, that's pretty much your browser. It used to have the browser button up here with the Internet Explorer. Well, it's no longer around with Windows 10. So there's your browser, your basic function. Close that. And now you have all apps. So anything you have installed will be all apps. I don't have anything installed right now other than the defaults. Windows comes with an alarm clock, a calculator, calendar, camera. If I had a camera on my desktop, I can. My VM allows me to extend my camera to my Mac, and the Vmware Fusion allows me to extend my camera into my VM if I'd like to. but I prefer not to at this moment. There's Skype, Microsoft Edge, Maps, Mail. These are all the built-in features. News, OneNote, People, this is your contacts, phone companion, so if you have a Windows phone you can connect to it, a voice recorder, Windows accessories, PowerShell. It's a command line type language, so I'll show you that in a second. So if we go here to CMD, we go to a command prompt. People familiar with this is not a windowing system. This is more for people who know the command set inside of Windows. Instead of using a mouse, we're using commands, right? So and you get to learn this when you get more experience with Windows. So if I wanted to look for that PowerShell, what's good about Windows 10 is the search is always there. So when you pull up the start, you can just type power. As soon as you type power, it says, oh, PowerShell, or do you mean power? If you have something else labeled power, you can do that. So I'll pull up PowerShell. PowerShell is similar to the command line as we just saw, the old command line, or as people call it, DOS, way back. But it's just called a command line, or CLI for short. So PowerShell will open up once we get it. So now once PowerShell starts up, PowerShell again is a very powerful shell language. You can set up scripts, you can set up automation in your system. If you're interested in learning more about it, don't hesitate to use Google. You can look for more information on that. So while it's loading up, we'll look at another feature that comes with Windows. It's called the Windows Store. Now this is the App Store. So just like all other platforms, they have a store now. You can buy applications. So if you go to the Windows Store, create yourself a Windows ID. If you have a Hotmail account or a Live account or an Outlook account, that would be your Windows ID. And you can go in here and find music, movies, apps, plenty of resources to use. So if you want to use Netflix in Windows, there you go. They're free. Pandora, Adobe Photoshop, Express, Hulu, Kodi. There's all kinds of applications you can get for free. And there's also many that you can buy as well. Now, one thing I do recommend, when you're looking for a virus scanner, a couple tools I recommend is Panda. Panda Free Antivirus 2016. The company Panda Security. Now this is ads. Remember, see, as soon as you see the word ad, don't click on the ads. Keep going down until you don't see ads. So Panda Security is the company. So Panda Security, they have Panda Antivirus. And now they have a free version. We're going to click on that. And of course, I don't want to purchase it. I just want to try it. So we'll click to download again. And no thank you, because I don't want to buy it right now. I just want to try it. Recommend buying it if you prefer to. The free one works really well. Recommend it if it's better than using nothing. I know there's plenty of other free ones out there. This one here doesn't come with any malware or attaching anything to your system. Just waiting for it to download here. It takes a couple seconds. And you look at this line here. Ignore these ads. Remember, if you see these ads, these are advertisements. I'll bring this up into a full window. And down here is going to be a video. They usually show ads, and sometimes they'll show how to install it. If the download doesn't start soon, you can then click on restart. But right down here it says running security scan. So remember what I said, Windows has a built-in tool. So we're going to see some ads there. Well, there it is. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to pause this video because I don't want to hear this. Now the download has finished, and now we want to run. running. So now we're running this. We will close the browser. Close browser again. And I see PowerShell still running. So there's PowerShell. So we will close PowerShell. I just wanted to show you what it was. Now in the background, this download should be here. So let's click on the folder and see where this download is. It should be running. It just could be because we have only allocated 2 gigs of RAM for this. I would recommend 4. I'd have to turn off the VM to add more memory by just going to here. We would then here go to the hardware. So there's disk, sound, camera, sharing. There's plenty of more features we can edit on this VM if we wanted to, but I don't want to go into the settings at the moment. I should go in and add memory, but because the VM is on, I can't do any changes unless I power it off. As it says here, the settings page cannot be changed unless the virtual machine is shut down. Well, it's just like a physical computer. You can't add RAM while it's turned on. You have to turn it off. Same with a VM. So let's look under downloads, and there it is. And I also see the little flashing window down on the task menu here. So let's click on this. And because we told it to run, UAC, which is a user account control, it's another protection piece in Windows 10. If this pops up, it means something wants to install or something wants to happen. Now, if you didn't click on something to make it happen, read what that screen says and say no or cancel it. But because we know we open this file, we could say yes and carry on with the install. And of course, it wants to set all the defaults. I would say uncheck the defaults and then say accept, because this is going to change your home page. It's going to set up the default home page, and it's going to turn on some other pieces. We don't want to do that. We just want to let it install where it's installing, leave it in English, and take all those settings off to just give us a base install without extras. And once this installs, it will carry on. Now while it's installing, let's look at the clock. So we click on the clock. Notice the date and time. The time is off. So while we click on the clock, right, we want a date and time settings. And the default, for some reason, I think it's because Microsoft is from Seattle, so they always keep it as Seattle time default. So Pacific time. So let's change that. I'm in Eastern, so which is -5. Eastern, and let's make this full screen so we can see any changes, and there we go. So we're done. So now we just go here, click X, and now you see the time is correct. And right now Panda is going out and getting its latest DAT file to make sure it has the latest protection, and once it installs, you will see over here I have Bluetooth, I have my USB key. You will see the Panda icon right there. This is your sound, and this is notifications. So if you see any notifications here, it could be notifications that, hey, you need to do a virus scan, or hey, you don't have a virus scan installed, or your disk is low. It could be any notification there. It could say Microsoft has updated your system, you need to reboot, and that will notify you. So you'll see a little red dot, almost similar to my red here that's on my Mac. And I apologize if you're getting messed up with my Mac buttons here and the Windows buttons. I will move this around a bit. So let this install, and we'll go here to start, all apps, and by this point we should start seeing Panda antivirus show up in here. And there's Xbox links because they've merged the Xbox system and Windows together, so you can see each other. You can put profiles on each other's. You could check your profiles from here, I believe. I'm not an Xbox person. I haven't played games in a while, but I believe that's what allows you into the environment. There's games, there's news feeds. You could turn these news feeds off. So if you click on this, you can say unpin, uninstall. We can turn it off so it doesn't keep it updated. So at this point here, what it will do is just close it. And now let's say we want photos or calendar. So you click on it and we say pin to taskbar. See, I just opened it. So let's close news because I think I opened news earlier. So let's go back to here to the tiles again. So if I want to put calendar down here, so it's always available down in this bar called the taskbar, you just click on it once and you say pin to taskbar. It will then add that icon right there. So now your calendar is always available from here. You don't have to go to the start button. So you can put all your favorite apps across here if you wish. And if you don't want it anymore, you just right click on it and say unpin this, and it takes it away. Same with this. This is your folders, so this takes you right to your disk. So this PC, which is known previously as a C drive, and there's the drive I had for my Windows 10 install. Now I'm done with the Windows 10 install. I want to eject the disk, which is eject the ISO file. What that will do is disconnect that so the disk is no longer there. So it's just like a disk coming out of your computer. So this is what the operating system looks like. Remember what I said, program files x86. Now the difference between the two is program files, because our Windows, we'll go back here, I'll show you. Control panel. Our Windows is 64-bit. What that means is our CPUs that are in our computers, the brain of the computer, can carry 64. So if you think about highways, it has 64 lanes available to it, so 64 bits. So when it has a 64 bits operating system, that means it has 64 lanes to work with in a highway. Now of course, the more highway lanes you have, the wider the path, which means more things can happen, more things can flow. On the previous version of Windows, it was 32 bits, which is half of that, and it was always known as the x86 platform. So on Windows 10, you could run 32-bit programs on a 64-bit app server, on a 64-bit platform of Windows 10. And what will happen is when you install 32-bit applications or x86 applications, it will install them in here. When you install 64-bit applications, it will install them in here. So let's look around and see where did it install the antivirus. Now we don't see where it is in here yet. So let's see where it is. So it's almost done. So we should see it come in here as Panda antivirus. Now let's see if it was a 64 or 32-bit application. And this is a user profile, so I created a user CompuGuy. So this is all my files. So my music, my favorites, my downloads. You'll see the download I downloaded there. So this is all my files. If there was more users, there would be more folders. Typically most computers have one user, unless you're sharing with other people. Let's go back to the virus scanner. It says it's finishing the install. Back here. So let's go back to C. Now Windows is the operating system. Don't ever go in here and delete anything or play anything unless you know where you're going and what you're looking for. It's very dangerous to delete files from here. I know most of you like to clean up your hard drives. Don't go in this folder and delete anything, or the two program files or program files x86. The only place you can save disk space is by going into here and maybe deleting some of your documents. If you want to uninstall programs, so if I just installed the Panda antivirus, for instance, you don't go here and delete it. What you do, right, you don't go in here either and look for Panda and delete it. What you want to do is you want to go to here, and you can either use Control Panel, or you can use the new version of of Windows has settings, and settings will take you into the settings of your system. So for instance, if you want to uninstall something, in the settings menu it will come up with an uninstall menu. So you want to display power, Bluetooth, so forth, you can go in here and do anything you need to do in Windows. Now updates and security, that's Windows updates as I mentioned, your accounts, power apps. So let's go to system here, and this is where we can actually go and say I want to take something away. So here's my apps and features, and you can look for your apps, your applications you have installed, and everything you want to do in Windows. So there you go. There's Panda. So if I want to take Panda out, I can highlight it and say uninstall, and we'll take it off my computer. Let's say the start program, I can say uninstall. Camera, I can uninstall, and this will help reduce the used disk space if you want to install things this way. Okay, so let's go here, and let's see if that ever showed up yet. So did Panda antivirus show up? There it is, Panda Security. So it is an x86 application. So there you go. So there is what they call a 32-bit application running on a 64-bit Windows. You can use them. Now, not all 32-bit applications will work. It will tell you there's a compatibility issue if you try to install it, or you should look at whether it works for Windows 10. And that can easily be done by going to the website of any company that makes the application you're looking at working on. So there you go. This is how to install Windows on a VM. So now I will shut down. And thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, comment, anything you want me to do next. I can create many different videos of many different applications and operating systems as I plan on doing, as I've done other videos. So please stay tuned for more videos coming shortly. Thank you.